Okay, so this is video number 11 in our series on 11 sex. Descriptions of each sun sign in the astrological Western zodiac, which isn't just limited to sun signs, it's limited to any type of planet or satellite or star, whatever kind of Lilith sign you want to do, but this describes people who are heavily influenced by Aquarius. This is the third of the last of the air signs, ruled by the planet Uranus, which gives it an awareness of the future, not in the strict psychic sense, but in the form of inventiveness. Flashes of inspiration come like strong electrical forces, and Aquarius is often able to go farther toward his goals by putting these interpretations into action. He does this either by creativity in the developing a product or by recreating existing ideas and giving them new forms which others can use. While the male Aquarian is romantic, he is never activated or motivated purely by sexual desire. He is one of the most humanitarian signs of the zodiac, and his primary motivation comes from this source. He is always stimulated by the desire to express kindliness and by the principles of the brotherhood of man. He is so idealistic that using sex as a means of personal gratification is completely alien to his nature. The general outlook of both sexes is one of the friendliest one of friendliness extended, often indiscriminately, toward all who are within the personal orbit. Outwardly, Aquarians maintain a generally tender regard for mankind as a whole. Although his inventive mind is always going into the future and looking through new horizons, there is a strangely rigid code of ethics and honor possessed by the Aquarian from which he will never deviate, even though the circumstances of his wealth or his environment may change. He takes personal pride in this fact, and quite rightly so, for he practices what he preaches. In romance, the male Aquarian needs every encouragement. This is an adequate lover. To be an adequate lover, he must be admired by his partner. His main ambition is not to become famous, rich, or accepted by society for purposes of his own ego, but rather he willingly tries to be all these things to please the person he admires. Sometimes he is mistaken in regarding material achievement as being more important than the actual physical demonstration of love itself, and is carried out only in a small everyday personal tributes to devotion. It is very easy for an Aquarian to forget his birthday or anniversary present for someone in his domestic circle, and he will suffer remorse when he realizes this. Often he will make up for this negligence with an overly indulgent and expensive present, given a day or two later. Basically, this is one of the most honest signs of the zodiac, so he will own up to his oversight. When Aquarians enter into marriage, it is with full understanding and commitment, but the male Aquarian will also expect the most implicit honesty from his partner. Unfortunately, such idealism, meritorious though it is, may not always result in happy, contented married life. For often it is hard for the Aquarian's mate to live with a visionary who may also possess something of a genius quality as well. Thus, the Aquarian male is frequently misunderstood by his marriage partner. An Aquarian, feeling that his partner has let him down, can easily move into extramarital relationships. Again, he is not motivated by sex, but he acts purely to revive his ego and to find the companionship for which he longs. The female Aquarian likes to feel that she is useful to her lover or husband, and she can be of the greatest service in encouraging him in his own work. However, she insists on the right to continue with any work in which she is interested. Her occupation is generally of a philanthropic nature, as Aquarians have the desire to see mankind under the great banner of communal love. She is not given to overindulgence in sex, but needs to feel secure in terms of affection, which she prefers to lavish displays of love. She can be very unemotional even toward her own family, and there is always a danger that, with her eyes set out in distant goals, she may not be aware of problems which exist in her home. Never the best housekeepers, she is kind to her family and grateful for any consideration shown to them, but she appreciates it most when it is the form of action or service rendered rather than the realm of verbal declaration. Social activity is essential to her happiness. She can be a passionate crusader for causes in which she believes, but sometimes carried her banner far for left-field endeavors she cannot cope to win popular approval. She will never concede, however, that she is supporting a lost cause. Sympathy, understanding, and common sense are greater attributes to both sexes of Aquarians than personal exploitations of the sex. In common with the males of the sign, the females have great literary and inventive ability, but their natural compulsion to be involved in public affairs can sometimes foil them in achieving personal successes as writers. They are much devoted to research work and are able to perform these tasks very well, but they can pack rats who collect data forever and fail to put into use unless they are some other planets which motivate them strongly to do so. The same thing happens with inventions that Aquarians may patent. Even then, they will not go out and take the trouble to see that their brainchildren are marketed and used. So independent is the Aquarian that he rarely likes to feel that a partner is needed in his life. Yet this is the obvious answer for him if he is to fulfill his potential. Male Aquarians feature heavily in American politics, and a large number of presidents who have done an admirable job in their terms of office have been born under the sign. The qualities of leadership and administrative ability which best personify the characteristics of this sign were found in Thomas Jefferson, who was born with his sun in Aquarius. It is only the male Aquarians, however, who seem to be able to reach the pinnacle of fame in politics and public life, as the females seem content to dedicate themselves, making their own particular contribution towards the success of others by working in the background. It is thus very essential that an Aquarian woman have a husband who is not inquisitive about her affairs. She likes to talk about things in her own time and resents domestic interference in her civic involvements. In their personal lives, both sexes seem to be on the positive traits of their signs. Should they realize that there may be a negative quality creeping in, they consciously seek to rectify it. This is an ability that is rare. In most other signs, subjects choose to ignore their negative qualities, and some seem to build them deliberately into their way of life, which of course is not conducive to happiness or success. For example, the average Aquarian is not very punctual either in appointments or in the home. It is noteworthy that Aquarian females sometimes forget that the rest of the family likes having meals served at regular intervals, hesitate instead of having them fit quite casually around mother's busy life. Strong Aquarians manage to get this trait under control. All Aquarians respond positively to assuming responsibility. They are not born to be burden bearers like the Sagittarians, but are actually welcome a chance to accept responsibility. As marriage must be regarded in that category, it is natural that they take it seriously. They have the same attitude towards love, which they disassociate from sex. The latter is incidental to their busy lives, accepted merely as a means of propagating the race, but not in primitive sense of the word. Conscious of the population explosion all over the world and the danger of food shortages, Aquarians rarely indulge in large families. They are generally much happier having produced 2 children. If limited to one child, the Aquarian has a tendency to overindulge, wanting his child to have all he might have missed in his own youth. Always concerned about their children's education and general welfare and being possessed by the finest intentions for bringing them up to be excellent citizens, Aquarians make exceptionally loving parents. The present rebellion of teenagers against the older generation is something which the Aquarians, with rigid conservative views that draw a hard line between right and wrong, are not able to accept. They acknowledge the existence of the generation gap as just another of the world's problems which they have to put right. It sometimes comes as a shock to Aquarians when they discover that we are passing from what astrologers call the Piscean age of poetry and poverty into the more realistic age of the Aquarian, which will be influenced by their very own ruling planet, Uranus. The dynamism of Uranus demands change in social thought and in all other conditions concerning mankind. Elderly Aquarians are not going to be very overjoyed to witness the advent of their own reminiscence. They will still be seeking reforms based on old idealisms and probably will become bitterly frustrated before the turn of the century. The idea of free love is a bête noire to the Aquarian. He does not indulge in it himself and cannot understand the need for it. It is just another worldwide problem that harasses him. If he could only make peace with the fact that free love can indeed never truly exist by the very nature of the truth, that love demands a certain form of passive and active interchange at its price, he should be able to reckon with reality and take heart in knowing that the human race will continue in much the same way as it has done for many thousands of years. Men and women will be old-fashioned enough to know that sex helps keep the world spinning round, results in the birth of children, and can be enjoyable physical experience as well. If there is ever a test tube baby, it will surely be due to the inventive mind of the Aquarian, but it is doubtful that he will ever be able to deny mankind the need for engaging in the sexual act, which may then become simply a pleasurable experience apart from the idea of procreation. Although there are areas of Aquarian's mind which are rigid and resistant to change, he is still a natural rebel and will fight against injustice wherever he finds it. He will champion the cause of reforms in the divorce and abortion laws and will challenge many traditions while he reserves the right to cling to those particular rituals which suit him personally. He is an odd mixture of conventional person who can suddenly become entirely unconventional. For this reason, it is essential that Aquarian marriages should be based on intellectual compatibility. Neither male nor female Aquarians can relish or be happy with a partner who needs sexual attention of an especially exciting nature. Marriage should be to someone who can be agreeable to the Aquarian's own particular notions of change, someone who has a sense of adventure, someone who can understand that the Aquarian offers loyalty and devotion rather than demonstrative love. The Aquarian needs a mate who can appreciate and encourage his often airy, pie-in-the-sky ideas. The mental gyrations of the Aquarian can make him a difficult companion, and with the wrong partner, the Aquarian becomes frustrated, miserable, and ultimately defeated. When this happens, he or she can slip into slovenly habits, forgetting to keep the self well groomed. An unhappy Aquarian retreats into a strange form of professor-like absent-mindedness. The female Aquarian will never be a paragon of virtue and domesticity, and although the male may be given to inventing great electronic devices, he may be quite incapable of putting in a new electrical fuse at home. Male Aquarians have a penchant for marrying women younger than themselves. The father image suits them better than being expected to be even a mediocre lover. This kind of relationship can endure simply on the basis of kindness and the cloak of protection offered by a male rather than on sex. It is rare, however, for an Aquarian woman to survive with a lover younger than herself. She often finds an intellectually too immaculate and is not at all imposed by the romantic image of this relationship creates. Subjects of the second air sign of Libra are very harmonious with Aquarians, since they are naturally inclined to offer a sympathetic shoulder upon which to lean, and they can enjoy the protectiveness of the Aquarian. A love relationship with a Leo can also be a remarkably happy union, especially if there are children. Leo supplies something of its own determination and fire to the Aquarian, who may be uncertain about his own projects. Both Leo and Aquarius have deep-rooted religious tendencies which they share, Leo being inclined to the orthodox religions, while Aquarius may vary from the orthodox to the latest thing on the religious market. Both are willing to acknowledge that high ethical and moral ideal is necessary in their lives. The first fire sign of Aries can sometimes be attractive to Aquarians, but the liaison is not likely to last as long as that which the higher fire sign relationship of Leo-Aquarius. Aries needs to be a more passionate lover than Aquarius and can never dream of being, so this combination is better for a professional arrangement rather than a romantic one. The mentally alert Gemini is often recommended by astrologers as being compatible with Aquarius, but in our own research we have not found this to be true unless there are some exceptional planets which help Gemini to soft-pedal his constant desire for change in all its forms. Aquarius likes to be able to consider the changes he is going to make before acting rather than having decisions thrust upon him by Gemini. Force only brings out the rebel in Aquarius, and he will revolt energetically against Gemini under such circumstances. The Aquarian female is more likely to be happy with a Gemini husband than vice versa, but there is a danger that these two air signs may be too idealistic, too cool and detached from their domestic environment to ensure a happy marriage. They can live on cloud nine, and the impracticability of both these partners is a hazard to the majority of such relationships, even though we have personal knowledge of several that are exceedingly successful. In general, it is not acceptable to link Aquarius intimately with Gemini, and in business the relationship is rarely satisfactory, for after a time the often devious nature of Gemini will annoy and frustrate the Aquarian. There is a tendency for both to conceive plans on a gigantic canvas. Not being able to carry them out, each has a tendency to blame the other for the default. Aquarians, never likely to be caught in the trap of emotional romanticism, should nevertheless take great cause in choosing their partners in marriage, for the wrong mate creates a vital problem that can endure for a lifetime. And that is the sign of Aquarius, which can be found in the new year. Just, it's a January, February kind of thing. So, and that's sort of the sun sign, but of course the other signs can be found at any other time of the year too. And it's very, one of the tamer ones, it seems like, after reading that, when as far as sexual promiscuity is concerned, certainly, but that's Aquarius, and stay tuned for the last sign, which is Pisces, so we're almost through this, and please subscribe.